RuneScape is a pretty old game, so there's quite a lot of broken features. Today we'll be taking a look at some content that exists in RuneScape right now that's glitched, partially broken, or just flat out doesn't work. Let's start off with the oldest one on this list, the Paramaya Inn. I'd guess 95% of people who play old school RuneScape have never visited this place, or even more likely have never even heard of it. In fact, I discovered it completely by accident. So there's a massive building in northern Shiloh Village with only one NPC, Caleb Paramaya. If you speak to him, he'll offer you the chance to rent a bed in his dormitory for a night for only 35 coins. Even better, he says that fee also covers cleaning and laundry. Seems like a real high-class place. Now, if you buy a night's rest from Caleb, he'll give you a Paramaya ticket. Once you head upstairs, the ticket is taken and you're officially in the exclusive dormitory. And honestly, it's kind of a dump. That cleaning fee clearly doesn't get you very far, and Caleb never actually does your laundry. You can't sit at the tables or use the beds, and even this bookcase doesn't have anything interesting. Then again, it appears to only have 4 books. Worst of all, the examine text on the ticket that gets you in here is wrong. It says Paramaya Inn. So what's the point of this area? What kind of scam is Caleb running here? Well, back in RuneScape Classic, Jagex introduced a fatigue system to combat botting. After playing for a while, you'd get to 100% fatigue and would need to find a bed to rest in and enter a CAPTCHA while sleeping to prove you're human. Hey, that's a weird looking CAPTCHA. Maybe if you aren't subscribed, you should listen to what it's saying. Anyway, after doing so, your fatigue would drop to 0% and you could continue playing. These were the only beds in Shiloh Village, so if you were doing anything nearby, you were more or less forced to use them. As a result of the fatigue system, players would need to know where the closest bed was at all times. Training spots closer to beds soon became overcrowded, and spots far from beds died off completely. So to fix this, 6 months after fatigue was added, Jagex introduced sleeping bags that would allow you to rest anywhere. This killed all the inn's traffic as pretty much everyone had a sleeping bag, but it still remained functional. Once Jagex removed fatigue when RuneScape 2 launched, it seems nobody bothered to delete the inn. Actually, it was even graphically updated. For a while, Caleb even gave out the Karamja Medium Diary rewards, and Jagex still didn't delete the dialogue about the inn, or at the very least make access free. Nope, still 35 coins for a useless room. So to this day, Caleb sits waiting, hoping new customers will enter his dormitory, but nothing will recapture the business he had back in 2003. Our next one is something you might have seen around your travels in RuneScape recently. Players who have multiple pets out at the same time. Now this is obviously a bug, but surprisingly, despite first reports of it appearing almost half a year ago, it still hasn't been patched. Bug abusers are big fans of this, as it's allowed them to sell information on how to do the glitch to interested players for hundreds of millions of GP. The glitch itself is pretty harmless though. All players can do is spawn multiple pets that follow them around. Some people take it a step further though, as if you die with a duplicated pet out, it'll just roam around for about an hour without disappearing. I remember seeing this for the first time a few months ago and was beyond confused to just see this little chompy running around at Chambers of Xeric. Unfortunately, I don't think he ever found his way home, as sad as that sounds. I know this should go without saying, but don't abuse bugs, no matter how harmless they are, because it's just not worth risking your account over. Did you know Jagex is guilty of war crimes? Article 53 of the 1949 Geneva Convention essentially says the logo of the Red Cross should only be used where appropriate, and those who use it inappropriately are guilty of war crimes. However, I'm no expert, but it does seem to depend on what country you're in, so Jagex is likely in the clear on any war crimes charges, but they do still violate the convention. For those unaware, the Red Cross is a non-profit humanitarian organization that handles things like emergency assistance, disaster relief, and education. There are a few exceptions, but for the most part, nobody is allowed to use the Red Cross's symbol except those who are associated with the organization. Jagex does not have one of those exceptions, yet they use the symbol in a few places. For example, on the nurse's hat from the A Tale of Two Cats quest, and the Surgeon General at the Duel Arena. You might be thinking, it's a video game, who cares? And I agree, but the Red Cross doesn't. They have an article on their website that explains that using the symbol incorrectly damages its meaning. So in the past, they've reached out to developers of games like Halo and Doom to have the Red Cross removed. In fact, the Red Cross symbol was removed from RuneScape RuneScape 2 in 2010 and replaced with a green cross. I don't believe the red cross reached out to Jagex, but they made this change to avoid any future issues. But let's take a little quiz. How do you think players reacted to this change? A, calmly and rationally, or B, lost their minds in Faladore Square? Yep, that's right, the answer is B. In typical RuneScape fashion, Faladore was flooded with riots. I know a lot of people are embarrassed to say they play RuneScape, especially when the players have blown up over a sprite change multiple times in the past, but if you want to sound cooler, you could just say that you play a game that goes against the Geneva Conventions. Many of you watching this video have probably played one of RuneScape's temporary game modes, Leagues or Deadman mode. As you know, progress and updates that happen in these modes are exclusive, and nothing transfers to the main game. Sure, you get League points you can spend in the main game, but that's about it. Despite being a temporary mode, one Deadman mode tournament has made a lasting change to the main game. This is the Tomb of Rashilia, an area you unlock during the Shiloh Village quest. Once you complete the quest, you have no real reason to return here, or at least that was the case until players discovered that they could chin here. Chinning is the most powerful range training method in the game, and involves gathering large clumps of monsters together and attacking them with Chinchampas. Yes, the best range training method is throwing exploding, live, fat squirrels at things. Now, this only works in multi-combat areas, as otherwise you'd only be able to attack one monster at a time. Previously, this meant you needed to complete the Monkey Madness quest to unlock viable chinning spots, but because the tomb happened to be multi-combat, players could also train here instead, and unlocking it required way less requirements than Monkey Madness. Now, Shiloh Village, the quest that takes place partially in the tomb, is extremely important for most accounts. Completing it is a requirement to start quests like Recipe for Disaster, Dragon Slayer 2, and King's Ransom, quests that unlock your account some incredible items and prayers. So during 2019's Deadman mode, a game mode where PvP is on just about everywhere, a smart clan of PKers had a genius idea. If they rushed completion of the quest and then guarded the area, no other clan would be able to complete it and unlock these powerful late game quests. Speaking of clans, if you want to join one in old school, check out the video on how to join mine in the description below. It worked, and for the next week, almost nobody was able to complete the quest. But Jagex didn't like this. Rather than it being seen as a legitimate tactic, Jagex saw it more like griefing, since it effectively locked off the majority of the end game for most players. So they decided to patch the caves to no longer be multi-combat, not only in Deadman mode, but also for some reason in the main game. It's likely this was an oversight, as chinning in that location wasn't a very well-known strategy. As a result, almost exactly 3 years later, the tomb remains single-way combat, and the chinning technique no longer works. Now, it's no secret that Jagex likes to reuse assets whenever they can. I give this example a lot, but Nightmare Zone is made up of entirely reused assets. Those light orb thingies, barrels, the NPC, everything already existed somewhere else in the game. Now, Nightmare Zone's assets at least got some sort of unique dialogue, but sometimes they're literally just copy-pasted from somewhere else. A good example of this is the Spiny Bush and the Temple Trekking minigame. In the minigame, you'll sometimes come across the Bog encounter. In order to pass it, you'll need to use a knife on the Spiny Bush and use the branches it gives you. It turns out this same bush texture is used in Lumbridge Swamp, but it's actually not just the same texture, it's the same bush. If you bring a knife and use it on the bush, you'll receive the same branches from the minigame. It turns out there is a lot of stuff like this elsewhere in RuneScape. During the Pirate's Treasure quest, you're given a key to use on a chest in the Blue Moon Inn in Varrock to receive the pirate's message. When Jagex added the node with the release of Group Iron Man, they decided to use this same chest as decoration. As you probably guessed, the key also works on this chest and gives you the message. Now, Pirate Frank, the guy who gives you the key, is located in Port Sarum, which is a long walk to Varrock. However, if you're a Group Iron Man, you can use the portal in Lumbridge, or even better, the teleport on your Group Iron Man helmet to teleport to the node, and use the key on the chest to get the message. This is way faster than going to Varrock, and I don't really see Jagex patching this one anytime soon. Now for what you've all been waiting for. For the last 3 years, RuneScape's rarest items have been broken. Back in 2019, Jagex did a big clue scroll expansion. They introduced beginner clues, clues, more new steps, stackable reward caskets, new rewards for every clue type, and the Mimic boss. It was an awesome update. However, there was an oversight that managed to make 3rd Age items incredibly rare. To keep the explanation simple, 7 new gilded items were added to the Clue Scroll Mega Rare table. The Mega Rare table has one slot on it that, if hit, gets you a piece of 3rd Age. With more items clogging up the Mega Rare table, it became much harder to roll the 3rd Age slot. Master Clues had the rarity of 3rd Age items doubled from 1 in 1,173 to 1 in 2,270, but the rarity from Elites is even worse. It over doubled from 1 in 2,640 to 1 in 5,750. Now, if we were to include the Mimic boss into these calculations, which you're given the chance to fight occasionally when completing Elite and Master Clue Scrolls, the rates look much better, but still pretty bad for Elites. So overall, Elite clues just kind of suck. There's no real reason to do them at the moment because you can just trade them in for a master, assuming you have an easy, medium, and hard clue, which aren't difficult to get. Now, Jagex is aware of the problem and says they plan on introducing a fix in the next content poll, but we haven't had one of those since April of last year, and their current update lineup is filled to the brim, so I'm unsure when we'll see this actually happen. Not to mention, because it's an oversight, I'm unsure why it needs to be polled in the first place. I feel as if it's something that should just be fixed. Now, this isn't the only time I've discussed broken content in RuneScape. I actually have 2 other videos just like it in the playlist over on the right hand side of the screen. I hope to see you there.